Hi everyone, Angela here. In this video, I've put together a collection of my sewing hacks using household items, and I've added a few more. Let me know down in the comments which are your favorites and if you have a few of your own. You can find links for some of the tools and household items down in the description. This is a quilt guide that can be attached to your machine from either side. Instead of measuring and marking your fabric, the guide rides along a previously stitched line, keeping the next row of stitching perfectly parallel to the one before. If you don't have a guide, you can use some blue tack or other mounting putty. Rip off a small piece, roll it up, and stick it to the front of the presser foot away from the needle. Push a pin in on one side or both to the width that you want, and then check that the pin heads are even on both sides from the needle. You can angle the pins up a little bit depending on the thickness of your fabric. This will also work on presser feet for industrial machines. Again, just make sure it's on the front, well away from the needle. Save the cardboard tube from a roll of foil, baking paper, or paper towels, and then carefully cut a slit down the center. With the wrong side up, push in the end of a long length of binding, then roll it in the opposite direction to hold it in place. Or you can just tape the end in place. Thread through some cord. I'm just using a long shoelace and tie the ends together. Now you can wear it around your neck and the binding will unwind neatly as you sew it onto your project. Cookie cutters for drawing small circles. I really like these with the handle on top. Use any kind of small adhesive hook to put on the side of your machine to hold your clippers. A silicone baby bib can easily be put under your machine to use as storage or as a thread catcher. Use a makeup palette holder to store your templates and rulers if you're short on wall space. I originally made a video about this adhesive towel holder about 3 years ago to use it as a zipper jig. Simply drop in the zipper pull face down and then pull the tape through with the wrong side up. They're also useful for storing smaller scissors. If you don't have one of these magnetic seam guides to help you sew straight, you can use mounting tape. This tape has a nice thickness. Just cut a couple of inches and then double it up to get a nice thick edge. If you find it a bit difficult to sew skinny straps straight, just put tape on both sides. You can do the same with little straight magnets and protective furniture pads. These little pads are also great for holding your needles. These takeaway or takeout chopsticks make really good bodkins to thread in your elastic or your flat cords. This is my little Teflon pressing cloth. It's strong, non-stick, and see-through. I use it as a general pressing cloth, but especially when I want to protect my iron and ironing board from fusible glues. If you have any of these oven and grill guard sheets, you can use these as well, as they're literally the same thing, just in a much larger sheet. This is a point turner. I just find that it's a little bit too pointy and can easily poke through certain fabrics. Instead, you can use different size knitting needles as they're a little bit rounder at the point. These double-pointed knitting needles can be taped to a table, so if you have a lot of corners to push out, both your hands are free to pull on the fabric. For projects that I needed to trim the batting really close to the seam, I used to use my small template with the silicone grips on one side. Push the fabric with the edge of the template, carefully flip it over, adjusting it so just a little bit of the batting is showing from the seam. Then carefully trim away. Some things I find that work even better are 1. This scale ruler. The tapered edges slide easily underneath the fabric, and when you flip it over, it safely covers up all the fabric and stays in place. 2. A length of aluminum angle. The piece I have here is about 1/16 of an inch or 1.6 millimeters thick and 5/8 of an inch or 16 millimeters wide. Again, it slides under the fabric easily and safely covers all of it. 3. If you have a ruler with an angled edge like this one, you can easily slide the lower edge underneath the fabric and the angle will cover the seam. This is my chunky seam ripper that has a rubbery end at the top. You can unpick stitches like this or turn it over so that the little red ball is on the bottom and carefully rip out seams like this. You then use that top end to rub and clean off the thread. To be honest, I rarely ever use a seam ripper. Instead, I use single edge razor blades. Once you get the hang of it, it's just so much faster. I've used it to unpick everything from jeans to wedding gowns. If you have silicone spatulas with thin edges like these jar spatulas, they'll easily grab and clean away the threads. I mainly use a lint roller to do this job. These are stick-on template grips. They're round with a little circle in the middle. They're placed on the back of your template so that it doesn't slide around when you're cutting your fabric. Some templates already have a rough surface on the back to keep it from slipping. This is micropore surgical tape. When put on the back of a template, it works really well to grip the fabric. What's also nice is that it's see-through and I can see the markings a bit better. This is grip tape for skateboards. It's made with silicon carbide, same idea as sandpaper. The tape is clear and gritty. Cut it into small squares and stick it to the back of the template. The gritty texture grips the fabric, holding the template securely in place without any slipping. Place it gently on the fabric and avoid sliding it across. Because the texture is quite aggressive, it's best not to use it on delicate fabrics. If you need to press open the seam of a tube and you don't want to create creases on the sides, just put a rolling pin in between. What's even better if you can get it is a piece of handrail. It has that nice round top and a flat bottom. When you're done pressing, you can also use it as a clapper. For smaller tubes, this was a suggestion from one of my viewers. Cut and sew some batting to fit around a small ruler. With the padded sides, you won't get any creases when you press it. These are sewing and quilting clips. These laundry clips with the silicone pads also work really well. Use slap bracelets to store your rolls. This is a Christmas light holder that you can easily use to store your cording. Cable tape, which is basically double-sided hook and loop tape or Velcro, is also really handy for storage. These inexpensive cutting boards are nice and sturdy to use as pattern templates and also big enough to use as the base for the bottom of bags. If you cut a small rectangle with a narrow slit down the center, round out all the corners, you have yourself a nifty little pleat maker. If you're finding this video helpful, make sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on all notifications, and leave a comment below. As always, I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from. You can also show your support by becoming a member. You can also use a fork for smaller pleats and these hair combs for bigger ones. Easily cut down and customize the comb to the size you need. This next little hack I saw on a channel called Fierce Kittens. Make sure to check out her channel because she's really awesome. To easily match seams on vinyl, use a handheld plier stapler to staple just inside the seam allowance. You don't have to worry about breaking a needle because the staple's just to the right of the seam. I can easily remove these small staples with my bent nose pliers. If you no longer use your IKEA plastic bag dispenser, you can use it to store your vinyl rolls either in the center or across the openings. This is a telescopic magnetic pickup tool. Use it when you don't want to bend down to pick up those pins before you vacuum. You can use clear tubing to store your bobbins. Just cut a short length, then cut away about 1/4 inch from the center. Place the bobbins inside about 1 inch apart. Cut small pieces of a skinnier hose to use as bobbin clips. This will help keep the threads from unraveling. This will also work for small spools of thread. Use clear, shallow food containers for zipper tape storage. Measure the width of the zipper, drill 2 holes, and then cut down each side to make an opening. On the other side, drill a hole only at the top, then cut down both sides, cut a bit away at the top, and round out the sharp corners. Put in the zip tape, thread it through the hole, pull out the desired length and cut, then secure the end on the other side. You can cut nice and straight with a length of aluminum channel. I add mounting tape on the bottom and then double-sided tape on the inside without removing the plastic. This creates a nice smooth surface for the scissors to glide on. When done, you can just cover up the mounting tape again and put away. Here I have hemostats with both curved and straight tips. Both have various levels of tension. These are great if you need to thread your serger or overlocker, as the thread will not come loose. Use them to go in to grab a corner and turn a project right side out, and then you can use the tip to poke out any corners. If you're using larger cones of thread, you may need a thread stand like this. You can easily make your own. You just need a mug, strong rubber bands at the top and bottom of it, insert a ruler, and a little bulldog clip at the top. Robin Smith recommends using an empty Scotch bottle box to do the same job. Here I have some tube turners. They're basically just narrow tubes in different sizes with skinnier sticks that go in between. You can use any type of smooth tube to do the job. Here I got these tubes from the garden section of my hardware store. To turn a tube, have one of the ends sewn closed, insert the tube all the way to the end, and then push the fabric through with the narrower tube or stick. Push out the corners for a strap or just cut across the end. My favorite way to turn a tube is with this type of paper towel holder. Simply turn the top of the tube over about 1 inch and pull down. Make sure to let me know down in the comments what some of your favorite sewing hacks are. On my table underneath my cutting mat, I have a thin piece of sheet metal that I had cut to size. To use as pattern weights, I took these edge guide magnets and attached crystal doorknobs to them. These magnets are really strong. They easily hold down my paper patterns and even keep my cardboard patterns in place. These magnet eye hooks are also great to use, and they're really strong. These are hem markers. They're used to help you measure a hem length evenly from the floor. Slide the top piece to the desired length and just squeeze to get a chalk line onto the garment. First, I determine where the finished hem length will be, then I decide what type of hem I'll finish it with and allow for the extra fabric I need for that. So this line will be my cutting line and I won't have any other chalk to clean off. The chalk works really well on colors, but not so great on whites. You can barely see the chalk mark, so you'd have to pin it or remark it all around. If you do clothing alterations, this is just a big waste of time. What you can do is take one of these strong 2-inch clamps and place the flat side onto the floor. Insert a yardstick so that it's upright. Take a vanishing ink pen and insert it into a bulldog clip, and then wrap an elastic band all around so that the pen stays in place and the clip can still be squeezed. Place it onto the yardstick and carefully make marks all around. You can even carefully slide it to draw a solid line. I never use colored chalk on light colored fabrics as it's too difficult to remove. Now if you just need a gauge so that you can pin evenly all around, Deborah Lee told me that she used to use a plunger. You can grab an O-ring or any type of elastic to use as your marker. This first hack was recommended to me by one of my viewers at KPMB9JX to use empty dental floss containers to create a travel sewing kit. You can easily store your threaded bobbins, your pins and needles, and use the little blade on it to cut your thread. These are long sewing tweezers, but you can use normal tweezers if you're in a pinch. Not only do they help you with threading a serger or overlocker, but it'll also help you tie short threads together. Wrap the longer thread around the tweezers, pull the shorter thread through, and repeat. Pipe cleaners are really handy as they're thin, fuzzy, and bendable. Clean the inside of your machine with them, and use them to group your buttons together if you don't want to use little plastic bags. I use a vanishing ink pen a lot for my sewing. Spray it with a lot of water and make sure to soak it up with a clean towel. You can use kids' washable markers on your fabric, but just spraying it won't work. You really need to wash it for the ink to disappear. I was given a few of these number 15 disposable scalpels. They make amazing seam rippers. Just be really careful as they're extremely sharp. I mentioned hemostats in my last video, but something else you can do with them is clamp down and lock onto your thread and then pull it out by carefully turning it. This way you won't have lots of little threads to clean off. Another viewer, Leslie, recommends using a golf tee to hold a bobbin to its matching spool of thread. Something else you can use is a hairpin or bobby pin. Just pop on a very small bead, put through the bobbin, spread out the ends, and then squeeze into the spool. Take some small furniture felt pads, glue either golf tees or flat connector bolts to them, stick to the top of your sewing machine to hold your bobbins. These dental floss threaders can be used to help you thread your serger or overlocker, and also to pull your embroidery thread or yarn through a needle. You can also use it to easily pull the ends of your serging or overlocking. Thread it into the stitching about an inch, put the end through the loop, pull through, and trim. When you're finished using a large glue stick, remove the base at the bottom and clean it out. Find a magnet the same size with a hole in the middle and glue it on. Put the base back on, and now you can conveniently store your assortment of needles. I found these M16 eye nuts or lifting eyes and thought they'd make great pattern weights. You can pretty it up by spray painting them, or what I did here was wrap soft underwear elastic around it. Use painter's tape with low tack to label your fabric. I have a habit of buying fabric and then forget what I bought it for. If you don't have a quilting guide bar, you can use the tape to help you sew even rows of stitching without marking your fabric. If you have a really good sewing hack, let me know down in the comments. This is a Hera marker, also known as a Hera tool. Its curved shape fits nicely in your hand, and it's used to mark temporary lines onto fabric instead of using ink, chalk, or heat. This way, your fabric stays clean and there's nothing to remove later. You can also use the edge of a credit card or gift card to press in those lines. Magnetic bowls are great to hold your pins and clips, and they come in different sizes. To strengthen your tissue paper patterns, first iron out all the creases, cover with clear packing tape, and then cut out. You can tape just one side or both sides. This is my ruler handle that easily attaches with suction cups. You can easily reposition the ruler, and using it makes it safer to cut your fabric. This next hack, Becky Ezra shared with me. Cut a length of tape, about 10 inches long, and then place down with glue side up. Cut another length of tape about 6 inches long. Now carefully center this with glue side down onto the first piece of tape. Flip it over, create a bit of a curve, and then stick onto the center of the ruler. Now you have a quick and easy handle for your template. Use one of these over-the-door hooks on your desk when you need a quick anchor. Great with using your loop turner for skinny tubes. Thread the turner into the tube, put the loop over the hook, pull the fabric over the end, and then pull the tube right side out. If you need to make a bit of cording, pull out a long length of embroidery floss, double it over the hook, and then knot it all together at the end. Insert a pen or a chopstick in between, hold the floss, and then twirl until the floss is really twisted up. Release from the hook, fold in half, smooth it out, letting it twist on to itself. Next we have painter's drop sheet or drop cloth. Some of these can be the size of a room, so you get a lot of fabric. This cotton canvas is heavy duty and tightly woven, so great for making bags. You can also use shower curtains for your sewing projects. They're great for linings or for making wet bags. They're inexpensive, and again, you get a lot of fabric. By using just lightweight cardboard, you can make yourself a pleating board. Measure the pleats on each side, connect by drawing all the lines, and then use something sharp like an awl to score each line. Fold along the lines to create the pleats, and then press on both sides. To hold the pleats in place, put heavy-duty double-sided tape on the back. Peel and then stick to another piece of cardboard measuring slightly bigger all around. To help with inserting the fabric, you can use tools such as this broad knife, a wide scraper, or a flexible filling blade. I have a length of fabric that's already been hemmed. Keeping the bottom edge parallel with the board, carefully push the fabric all the way into the pleat. You can press after each pleat or push all the pleats in and then press. Use a clapper after pressing to set the pleats. Carefully remove and just put the last pleat into the first pleat of the board to continue. You can make a board to any size pleat or style you like. This is my vintage Vin Max puff iron that my best friend gave me. You clamp it onto a table, turn it on, and this metal egg shape heats up. It was originally designed to make it easier to iron puff sleeves. Just put it over the egg and rub over slowly. It's also useful to iron fabric hats. These irons are no longer made, but you can still buy them secondhand. You can use one of these wool dryer balls to put underneath and carefully iron that way. I also found these round wooden post knobs at the hardware store. I then stretched 2 pieces of cotton batting over it, secured it with an elastic, trimmed away the excess, and then glued it to a craft teapot base. This literally took me about 2 minutes to make. This is a velvet board or needle board that I've had for about 40 years. You rest the right side of the velvet on top of the needles to iron so that the pile doesn't get crushed. To clean it, I use a cheap pet slicker brush. Now, even when I bought this, velvet boards can be quite expensive, especially for something that you don't use all the time. As I showed you in the last video, this is a piece of handrail that's round on the top and flat on the bottom. Use 2-inch wide adhesive hook tape or Velcro. The hard hooks will act as the needles. Just cut a length, remove the backing, and attach to the rail. Now you can easily gently steam your velvet seams. To steam larger areas, you can attach multiple strips to a wider board. I'm removing the hooks from an old coat rack just so I can use the nice finished board. Next, I'll open up and remove the needle pads from 3 slicker brushes. Then I'll trim away the extra fabric along the inner edges. I line it up with strong double-sided tape, remove the backing, and then attach firmly onto the board. This worked really well as an inexpensive velvet board. First, I'm going to measure the center openings so that I can make some ribbon end holders or tamers. I first saw these on Brenda Quintana's paper crafting channel, but I'll just show you how I make them. For the cardstock, I'm just going to reuse these old tissue boxes. You could even use old birthday cards or Christmas cards. We want to cut strips slightly narrower than the opening. For the rolls with the bigger opening, I'm cutting the strips just a bit wider than ½ an inch. For the rolls with the smaller opening, I'm cutting the strips 3/8 of an inch wide. Thread the strip through the center opening until the end is just below the edge of the roll and hold in place. Bend the strip at the edge of the opening and then pinch and crease it. Keep holding it and then bend and crease on the other side of the opening. Holding everything nice and straight, fold the strip over the top edges and crease on each side. Now carefully mark the center of both top edges. Still holding everything in place, fold the other end of the strip just above the center opening and trim away the excess. Now mark along that edge. We'll put double-sided tape from this mark to the end of the strip. Cut out a center slot between the 2 top marks. I'm using a ruler and knife, but you can do it freehand, use scissors, or use a slot punch. You can also use a small 1/8 of an inch hole punch to round out the ends and then cut out the center. Thread the strip through the roll again, fold over at the creases, then tape together, matching the end with the mark. Press together and make sure that it can slide around freely. Pull out the end of the ribbon, fold over, and feed it through the slot. Hold the tab while rolling back the ribbon neatly to secure the end. So I can easily see them, I'll store some of the rolls upright in a few of these plastic drawers. To help keep the rolls nice and tidy, I'll use pages from old magazines. Roll the pages as tightly as possible into a thin tube and tape the edge in place. Measure across the inside of the drawer, then trim the tube to length so that it fits snugly, but without bowing or bending. Place this right at the bottom, close to the front of the drawer. Then place the next one about 1.5 inches or 2 inches apart. These will work as stoppers to keep them from rolling around. You can also use drinking straws or small dowels to do this. Once they're in position, you can tape them down to the bottom if you want. If you have the IKEA Scottish pegboard system, small rolls of ribbon fit nicely on these shelves. I'll just show you what I do that's a little more functional and maybe a little cheaper with these hooks. I use 2 lengths of 1/2 inch dowel and small cable ties to secure one of them to the front of the hooks. There's no need to use a tab to secure the end, as the front dowel will hold it in place and still allow you to roll out the ribbon. You can make patterns with baking paper, and because it's see-through, you can easily trace out patterns as well. In one of my tutorials, I show you how to use baking paper to trace and copy underwear. I'll show you a few things that you can do with freezer paper. Unlike baking paper, it's not see-through, it's dull on one side and has a shiny plastic coating on the other. I also have other freezer paper that's kind of shiny on both sides and the plastic coating is a little bit duller. To make appliques, cut a piece slightly smaller than your printer paper. With the plastic side down, center it onto the printer paper and press together. With my printer, I need to load it with the freezer paper side down. Then print your desired shape. Carefully cut it out and peel away the printer paper. Press with the plastic side onto the wrong side of your fabric. The heated plastic sticks to the fabric, giving you a nice light bond. Cut out, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance all around. If you have curves, clip small notches halfway into the seam allowance. Fold all the fabric along the edge of the paper and press down. Now remove the applique paper and carefully pin it onto your fabric ready to sew. The applique pattern can also be used several times. If you need to add buttonholes onto a project, make a buttonhole on a scrap piece of fabric to make sure that the size and style is correct. With the plastic side down, I'm going to cut a 2.5 inch wide template for the front of this sample. Work out where the center of the buttonholes will be from the edge, draw a line, and then score it. Fold the edge of the paper under, creasing along that line. Measure the width and length of your buttonhole, and then mark out the spacing onto the template. Next, outline the length and half the width of each buttonhole, and then carefully cut out. Open up and then draw a line across the bottom of each buttonhole. Carefully line up the edges and press the template onto the fabric. For each buttonhole, slide in until you can see your fabric through the opening of your buttonhole attachment. The bottom and center lines should match up with the marks on your attachment. Also check that the sides are parallel. Hopefully, by being able to see the fabric through the template makes sewing buttonholes just a little less daunting. You can see that freezer paper would also be useful for positioning labels, straps, and pockets. Cut the freezer paper the same size as your printer paper. Put the plastic side onto the wrong side of your fabric, press together, and then trim down to the paper size. For my printer, I insert with fabric side down. Print whatever design you choose, peel away the paper, and then your fabric is ready for your project. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for watching. Take care and happy sewing.